And it's good to see you once again on The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're glad you're with us. We're here each week meeting interesting people, discussing various topics. And today we have one fairly specific, but I think people are going to learn something they didn't know.
Well, I think so. We're going to be talking about all-terrain vehicles and safety issues in relation to all-terrain vehicles. You see these vehicles, 3- and 4-wheelers, as you pointed out last week, roaming around in fields and in paths, and sometimes the people driving them are pretty small and pretty young, and sometimes they don't stay on, and sometimes that's really a safety issue that needs to be addressed. And we've got a couple of people here that will be talking to us about it, telling us what the problems are and what are the possible solutions.
Right. So if you know someone who's driving one of those frequently, you might give them a call, have them tune in. It's The Verdict. We're discussing all-terrain vehicles. I think you're going to enjoy this show. We'll get to it when we get back.
At Chesapeake Energy, here's a few of our favorite Hornets. Alexis likes reading. Sam enjoys history. Alec loves math. Chesapeake is proud to support both the Oklahoma City NBA Hornets and the Young Hornets at Horace Mann Elementary, where over 150 Chesapeake employees mentor to children each week. The students gain a lot from the experience, but not as much as we do. Chesapeake Energy, committed to building a better Oklahoma.
Looks like somebody doesn't want you to know the facts about Cox Digital Telephone. Maybe it's because over 1.5 million customers are saving big, and you can too. Plus, you'll save even more on all your Cox services when you bundle today.
Oh, here's that new phone service I've been hearing about.
So while the phone company may not like competition,
Nice doggy.
you're gonna love it.
Nice doggy.
Cox Communications and the Oklahoma Historical Society present the first in a new series of programs created especially for Oklahoma Centennial.
You cannot understand Oklahoma history without understanding the history of American Indians.
They decided to preserve Sequoia's last home. His home has never been moved. It's on the exact spot he built it in 1829.
Voices of Oklahoma, the American Indian Experience. See it all this month on the Cox Channel.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers. Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
We are very pleased today to have Dr. Roxy Albrecht as our guest. She, since 2001, has been an associate professor of surgery and the medical director of trauma and surgical care at the University of Oklahoma Medical Center here in Oklahoma City. She did her undergraduate work at the University of Iowa and her medical education at the same institution. She's a member of the American College of Surgeons. She's the past president of the Oklahoma Safe Kids Coalition, and she's here to talk to us today about all-terrain vehicles. This is her first visit, I hope not her last, to The Verdict. Doctor, thanks for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thanks very much for coming on the show. First, let's talk about your job at OU. What is it that you do?
I'm the director of trauma and surgical critical care, and for the past 5 years, my life has been dedicated to the surgical care of emergency patients as well as traumatized patients.
So you're serving patients, or are you in the teaching?
I'm in both modes. I'm also the associate professor of surgery and teach residents and medical students in emergency care, trauma care, and intensive care in the surgical intensive care unit.
Okay. And you're at the Oklahoma City campus?
At the Oklahoma City campus at OU Medical Center.
What about Safe Kids of Oklahoma? I know that's an organization in which you're interested.
Yeah, I got involved in Safe Kids almost immediately after I came to Oklahoma in 2001. It's an organization that has a mission that I truly believe in, and that is to decrease accidental injury in children. There's more than 450 coalitions around the nation, as well as now it's Safe Kids Worldwide. They've gone into 15 countries to decrease the incidence of accidental deaths in children. Accidental death is the #1 cause of death in children under the age of 14. Almost 1 million kids are killed each year because of accidental injuries. And it's something that we can prevent. We can both do it by teaching, by educating, by legislation in numerous areas to prevent these deaths.
Well, how much of the education necessary to bring about a prevention is education of the parents?
I think that's key, and how you educate the parents, whether it's, we have several programs in Safe Kids that have been developed by educators, healthcare educators, by media input, as well as prevention specialists. And these areas are taught to parents as well as taught to the kids in the school system. We have a Walk This Way program that teaches them how to walk to school. We have child passenger safety is where Safe Kids began, teaching people how to appropriately put in car seats, having car seat checks for kids, having them come to local community centers, to places of business, to fire departments, to teach them how to put car seats appropriately in cars so that children are protected.
Well, are kids safer today or less safe today than they were when the three of us were children?
Kids are much more safe today. If you look at the outcomes that have been processed through Safe Kids over the past, they came into fruition in 1987, and they looked at their outcomes at about 15 years, and they've shown that it actually has made an impact in decreasing childhood deaths in both bicycle safety, passenger safety, pedestrian safety, poisoning, decreasing poisoning. So yes, we are safer due to these educational as well as legislative programs. These didn't all come about by just teaching parents how to be better parents. Child passenger safety is a huge legislative initiative, both nationwide as well as throughout the United States, and every state has some sort of child passenger safety law that people have to follow to be able to appropriately restrain their kids.
I noticed, Mr. Mayor, a story recently that the Oklahoma City Police Department is cooperating by providing bilingual police officers to conduct a portion of the child safety seat training to those who speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether that's one of Safe Kids' programs or not, but your city is aiding in that effort.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't have enough bilingual police officers, but we definitely encourage it, and and it's especially an issue when it's something as simple as a traffic stop. I mean, trying to determine what happened in any altercation. So, I am glad that we're out doing that. Yeah. Specifically, the all-terrain vehicles, though. Why is that something that's kind of drawn your attention? Again,
I picked up on that because of my feeling towards protecting kids. Over the past, I've been in surgery for 15 years, and specifically dedicated to trauma and emergency surgery for 10 years. And I've seen an exponential increase in children injured on ATVs. I also belong to the American College of Surgeons. I review trauma centers for the American College of Surgeons. When I go out and review other trauma centers, I ask them, what are you seeing a lot of now? And they say, we're seeing a lot of ATV injuries, and we're seeing them in younger and younger people, and we need to do something about that. We're seeing deaths. This year, we've had 19 deaths in the state of Oklahoma on ATVs. 6 of those are 18 years and less. There was a study that was conducted here in Oklahoma by Brandenburg and the Oklahoma Department of Health that showed a significant increase in injuries related to ATVs as well as deaths. There was 300 injuries in about a 5-year period of time, 64 deaths. 38 of those deaths were due to head injuries, and half of those deaths were in children under the age of 16. these children are only about 15% of the riders, but they're half of the deaths in people who ride all-terrain vehicles. And majority of that is due to riding the wrong size ATV. We're putting younger and younger people on ATVs that are made for you and I, or bigger adults than you and I. I don't think I could handle some of the adult size ATVs because of the size and the complexity of managing those. One poignant death was a 4-year-old who was riding with a 6-year-old on an adult-sized ATV. The 6-year-old was driving, had an accident where it turned, crushed both of them.
Now, are they wearing helmets at the time?
Maybe not.
Yeah.
If you look at it, the majority of them aren't wearing helmets. Very few are wearing helmets. We know that helmets will protect them. 64% of the injuries could be prevented by wearing a helmet. 42% of the deaths could be prevented by wearing a helmet.
But regardless of a helmet, a 6-year-old shouldn't be driving a 4-year-old on an ATV, even if they were wearing helmets. Is that part of your message?
That's part of our message. That's national recommendations that a child as young as that should not be driving an ATV.
But less than a minute. What else is out there besides ATVs? The skateboards, the roller blades. Are you seeing an increase?
We did. Last year, I actually looked at last year's data at OU Medical Center. We saw 40 ATV injuries. That was the highest number of that type of recreational activity that a kid is involved in. 40 ATVs. The next highest was 30, which was bicycles. Skateboards was kind of the middle of the road. So we are seeing more ATV crashes than bicycles, motorcycles, skateboards, trampolines, other childhood-related activities.
Very interesting. We're going to have to get to our first break, but Kit and I'll be back right now with our guest. You're watching The Verdict. We'll be right back. The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Shining is taking responsibility. At Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, we know managing your health care can be overwhelming, and it's our job to help you meet the challenge. By guiding, supporting, and showing the way, we encourage you to gain control. Because we believe the best tool we can give you is the confidence to take charge. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Oklahoma, shining through.
That land next door was a mess. Take more than a lawnmower to revive that land. I heard the oil and natural gas people was cleaning up old oil sites, and it wouldn't cost us a plug nickel. Oh yes, sir, it was quite a revival. The whole church showed up, want to make a playground for the kids. It sure is a blessing.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Here at the Cox Channel, we want to thank all the players, cheerleaders, coaches, and fans for another great season of high school football. But we're not done yet. The Built Ford Tough Playoff Connection is providing some bold moves with scores from across the state, coaches' interviews, and bracketology. Get connected to the playoffs with the Built Ford Tough Playoff Connection on the Cox Channel. We're all about the playoffs.
I'm Chris Paul.
And I'm Dave Lyles with some of our friends from the Boys and Girls Clubs in Oklahoma. Growing up is tough. Everyone needs a fun and safe place to learn and grow.
Boys and Girls Clubs offer programs that instill a sense of pride, purpose, and belonging. Club kids have grown up to become movie stars and, yes, even basketball legends.
We hope you'll join Cox, Oklahoma in supporting the Boys and Girls Club.
Get involved with your local club today because it truly is
a positive place for kids.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Dr. Roxy Albrecht, medical doctor at the University of Oklahoma, is with us today. We're discussing child safety in general, the Safe Kids Coalition, ATV use. Where do you want to go from here, Ken?
Well, we've talked about some of the problems with ATVs and the fact that indeed the misuse can cause a lot of physical injuries and death. What are some of the solutions that you'd like to see considered to try to cut down the incidence of death and accident?
I think the number one thing that I'd like to see is helmet use. We have laws for helmet use in children under the age of 18 who ride motorcycles in this state. As I said in our last segment, that helmet use can decrease death and disability significantly, 40 to 60% in patients who wear helmet, or in patients in riders who wear helmets. So I really would like to push that.
Let me follow up just a little bit and really kind of relate it back to the last segment. In the non-death situation, well, in the death situation, what's the most often the cause of death? Is
the cause of death, head injuries. They're the number one injury. 45% of the ATV injuries are related to head injuries. And those that are injured because of head injuries, the cost is tremendous. There's estimates of $3.3 billion in the cost in the United States annually for children under 14 who are injured in ATV crashes. If you look just specifically at Oklahoma, we're estimating somewhere around $28 million in 5 years of treatment for head injuries that were related to ATV accidents in kids under 16 years of age.
Well, if you got the exact legislation you wanted, what would it look like? How would it change where we are today?
Helmet use.
Would be required.
Helmet use would be required.
By everybody.
By everybody, but I think we need to be reasonable about this and have something similar to...
It's a perfect world. We're just
talking.
Tell us
perfect world,
what you'd like.
The recommendations by the American College of Orthopedic Surgeons as well as the American Society of Pediatrics would be helmets for all. Age restrictions and engine sizes. A number of states have passed legislation saying that children under the age of 16 should not ride adult-size ATVs. There are smaller-size ATVs that children are approved to ride. And the industry also has that on their advertisements, that this adult-size ATV is not made for a 16-year-old. So engine restrictions, size and age restrictions for riding ATVs, and there are several models out there to model that after. Safety education. While we had our bill last year defeated in Oklahoma, North Carolina passed a great bill that had safety education, helmet use, size and age, engine size and age restrictions in it. No use of alcohol when you're driving an ATV. We can't drive boats drunk in this state. Why should we ride a 700-pound machine if we're under the influence of alcohol? And then no passengers in ATVs that are not made for passengers. There are newer ATVs that are coming out now, four-wheelers that allow passengers and are made for those. But in a normal ATV that's built before the past few years, they weren't made for two people. They're made for one. And it's partly because of the weight of it. It makes it very unstable when you put weights in different areas that shouldn't be allowed in.
Let me ask you a question. Are we talking about ATVs that are four-wheelers or three-wheelers or both?
Both. The three-wheelers actually were banned, I believe, in 1988 because of many studies that showed the Consumer Product Safety Commission that these were very dangerous vehicles and tipped easily, and multiple deaths and injuries related to those. So there isn't, right now on the market, new ATVs, there should only be four-wheelers. And these are wide tires, low pressure tires. They're similar to motorcycles. The driver straddles the seat, and they have handlebars, not steering wheels. I'm not talking about dune buggies or some of the newer what they call off-road vehicles that have roll bars and seat belts and steering wheels that have come on the market in the last few years. I'm not talking about those. We're talking strictly ATVs, four-wheelers.
Do most of the injuries, from your experiences, happen when kids are racing or working or just using it as transportation to get from one part of the family farm to another part of the family farm?
When you looked at the study that Brandenburg published from our experience in Oklahoma, is that most of them are recreational usage. They are, yes, I know that people use them on the farm. I've seen farm-related injuries also out moving cows, hauling feed, doing things like that, hitting a rock that was unknown or having something tip over. But those are very few and infrequent. Most of it is recreational usage.
What is the last year you said you had a piece of legislation that did not pass. What was the principal objection to it?
I believe it's the age restriction. We were asking for, we would have liked less than 16. We asked that no one under age 12 be allowed to ride an ATV, and that met with a bit of opposition. I think also that people didn't understand how dangerous that these were, that they felt that they were something that, yeah, I like to put the grandchild on and drive them around the dooryard of the farm or go out and do this, and not understanding how dangerous they were. And it was also that use in the farming, agricultural, hunting, trapping, they are very useful in those situations. And that's not where we were aiming. We actually, the last part of the bill had an exemption for farming, hunting, and activities such as that.
You've got some legislation you hope will be introduced this coming session. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, a lot of legislators watch our show, so this is your shot.
Yeah, well, we're still in, there is a work group of individuals that are advocates for ATV safety, and we have been meeting since well before last year, before we presented last year's bill. And we saw what North Carolina passed, and we saw that we didn't pass anything, and we've had 19 deaths, as I've said, this year. So we would like to see helmets, especially in less than 18 years of age, similar to our motorcycle law. We would like to see safety education. The ATV Safety Institute provides education. There are, I believe I counted somewhere around 14 sites in the state that teach this, teach ATV safety. It's a 4-hour course. It's mainly driving. It's free if you buy a new ATV with certain manufacturers. It's a slight price if you have a used ATV, $75 if you're under 16 and $125 if you're over 16 years of age to take that. We'd like to see age restrictions and engine restrictions, and we're still under the debate of where to go with that, and that's my belief. I really think we should do that. I'm trying to go through them. So,
well, if someone in the general public wants to help, what could they do?
Talk to their local legislator. I think that's where we need to go. We need to go out into the communities. We need to go out into the rural areas. We have families that have been affected by this in numerous communities that have talked to their legislators, our spokespeople for us. But if they want to help, I think they need to call their legislator, write their legislator, say, please support any ATV legislation that is put on the table.
Dr. Roxy Albrecht, University of Oklahoma, we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Kent and I'll have a final word after this.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Just keep it.
Thank you.
Dr. Kessler? What's up with the pizzas?
Well, I just got my first satellite bill, and those extra fees were a bit of a shocker.
So I had to take a second job.
Hey, this was supposed to be pepperoni, dillweed.
Hey, it's Dr. Dillweed to you.
Whatever.
Kids. It's cool. I'm a people person.
Don't live in satellite denial. Get all your entertainment without the hidden charges from Cox, your friend in the digital age.
1 in 4 women will be a victim of domestic or sexual violence in their lifetime.
That's too many.
That's why we want you to know that if you or someone you know is suffering at the hands of an abuser, there is help. Call the Oklahoma Safe Line at 1-800-522-SAFE for access to state and local resources that can truly make a difference. Call anonymously, call toll-free, call today, because domestic violence is not a game. It's life or death.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're wrapping up a show with Dr. Roxy Albrecht. Learned a lot about ATV use, and this is a doctor who really cares.
Yes, and she's on the front line of treating the kids and adults, for that matter, who have been injured on ATVs. So she sees the product of that exercise every day. I'm sure it's a tough thing to see and deal with.
Her website, oksafekids.org. Or another website we'd like to see you go to is our website, theverdict.tv. You can go to that website and give us some feedback on the show, and also tell us a topic that you'd like to see on a future edition of The Verdict.
And we're going to keep our kids theme up next week. We're going to be talking about the Whiz Kids.
The Whiz Kids.
We're going to find out what that's about.
All right. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We will see you next time on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced by the Production Services Group at Cox Communications, exclusively for the Cox Channel.